Dan Illman, Mike Beer, taking a look at the DRF race of the day for Thursday, June the 4th. A graded stakes quality field running for $80,000 in the Tiller Stakes, going 1 3/8 miles on the Widener turf. Before we get to the analysis, please try out those DRF mobile past performances. Experience classic PPs with mobile interactive access anywhere, anytime on your phone. Access full cards in seconds. Fast. DRF.com/MPPS is where you go for all of the details. Here's the field for the Tiller. You can download free formulator past performances for this race on the Race of the Day event page at DRF.com. Download them, handicap along with us. Sadler's Joy, the number 8. It's been a good long-distance turf horse for a long time. 5-2. He fits this race to a T.
He really does. It's been sort of a remarkable run of form for this horse. He's just held his good form for a really long time, Dan. The longer the better for him. And he's a legit grade 1 or 2 kind of horse. Is going to take a lot of beating in this race.
Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this marathon. Noble India's shown over the years, you give him an easy lead, he can sprint on home. He's done it twice in his last 4 starts, and Timeform US believes he can make the lead in a blue bar situation, which means it's a race that favors horses on or near the early lead. He's been offered for a tag in his last couple, but he's got some back class as well.
Yeah, I understand that he, may be able to make the front in this race, and maybe he'll be able to carry his speed 11 furlongs. I'm not buying it with this horse. I don't think he's nearly good enough to beat this field.
Let's start things off with the number 1, Standard Deviation. Let's go back to his race 2 starts back, the Hollywood Derby. He was trained by Chad Brown in this race, and he's going to come with a rally to finish 3rd. After the race, he was privately purchased, sent over to Graham Motion, sent overseas, where he ran 2nd in a Group 1 overseas. Standard Deviation has a big closing kick. And this horse has some ability, Mike. It's all about really getting him some pace. I think he has a little bit more tactical speed than he showed in the Hollywood Derby. What about distance?
Yeah, we'll see what happens. He's going to need a trip in this race, Dan. I like that he seemed to improve, in my opinion anyway, when they switched him to turf last summer. Both the Hill Prince and the Hollywood Derby that we just watched, I just felt like he was badly compromised by the pace of those races. The 1-2 finishers both times just not coming back for him. And I was, sort of heartened by his race last time. They sent him 1.5 miles overseas, and he ran well in that race. He got wired by French King, who was winning that race for the 2nd year in a row. This horse lost position early, and he was really running at the end. I don't think the distance is going to be a problem for him.
Yeah, I agree with you about the trip last time out. He was kind of held up in behind horses while the winner got away, had to swing out turning into that straight, and he was running on at the end. This horse has a lot of upside. Petit Fee is the number 2, and Petit Fee is a group stakes winner in France, and the French competition, that's very, very good. Just didn't do much running in the Grade 3 Red Smith in his seasonal debut, Mike.
Yeah, and he was no match for a couple of these horses in that race. And to me, the thing that makes it really difficult to take him in this race, Dan, is Rosario gave him a great ride in the Red Smith, saving all the ground, slipping through the rail. He really had a look at it in the upper stretch, and he was just no match for those horses. To me, it makes him hard to take in the spot.
And that was his North American debut, not his seasonal debut, but he is going to have to improve off of that performance. Corelli is the number 3, European Invader, now under the care of Jonathan Thomas. This horse didn't face the best overseas, didn't face the kind of competition that Petit Fee faced. He was more of a handicapper type. He's also a kind of horse that I think likes a little bit of give in the ground as well. Maybe firm going will go for him, but he's also done some good running on a synthetic surface. I think he's stepping up in class.
I think he's taken on some tough competition here, too. Listen, he's relatively lightly raced for a 5-year-old, only 10 starts. He's been pretty good, especially when they've sent him long. A couple of wins, 3 really close second-place finishes. So he's run well in some spots. He just happened to found himself in a really tough race here.
Highland Sky was a very good 3-year-old several years ago on the turf. He's never really panned out since then, although he was graded stakes placed last year and a stakes winner in an off-the-turf race. Distance is good for him. I just get the feeling last time out in the Sunshine Forever when they turned him back, that was probably just a prep run for something longer. I won't hold that race against him. I don't think he had the greatest trip in the Japan Turf Cup, but we're getting to a point right now with Highland Sky, and he should be a good price in this race, where I'm getting a little tired of his act.
Yeah, I mean, I've sort of given up on him as well, Dan. He once had potential. He never really lived up to it. Listen, he's still pretty good. I can see him maybe getting a piece of this thing, but I'm just not going to use him on top.
Dot Matrix goes out for Brad Cox, high percentage trainer, and he was a graded stakes winner 2 starts back this year in the John B. Connolly, and the horse he beat, Bema's Boy, came back to beat the divisional leader Zulu Alpha at Gulfstream Park. Now, Dot Matrix then did not run very well at all in the Muniz Memorial last time out, so I'm not sure where he is from a form standpoint. Was that Connolly simply an anomaly?
Hey, we'll see what happens. I mean, he's a very consistent and solid horse, and I respect that he has tactical speed. I'll give him a pass for the last one because he didn't break in that race. I just, listen, his Red Smith, I thought he ran fine. He got a perfect trip in that race and was really no match for Sadler's Joy in that race. And I know that he wanted 1.5 miles 2 starts back then, but you don't get better trips than that. He was just sitting right up there on a crawling pace. I just felt like he took advantage to win that race.
Here's the expected pace setter, Noble Indy, his most recent race, in for the $75,000 optional claiming tag at Gulfstream. He was just able to walk on the lead. He went 49-1, and when you give Noble Indy that kind of pace edge, he can sprint home. The question is, can he, even with this sort of trip, do it going a longer distance against tougher horses?
Yeah, I mean, it's a real tall order for him, I think. I mean, they did send him 1.5 miles last October at Belmont. If you want to give him a pass for that one because they didn't put him on the lead that day, I guess that's fine. But boy, he didn't run well that day. I just don't see the race that makes him super competitive in here.
Focus Group made his first start for Christophe Clement down at Gulfstream, and he was closer to the pace, a lot closer to the pace than usual. When Focus Group was with Chad Brown, he was a true one-run closer, and when he kicked strong. It's just that he wasn't consistent with his kick, and that's what bothers me about Focus Group. He's a little bit inconsistent.
Yeah, he is. He didn't have a good 2019, in my opinion, anyway. He ran some good figures. He was grade 1 placed. I just didn't think he had a good campaign last year. Off the layoff for Clement last time, I did not think he got a good trip at all in that race, but he also didn't run that well either. I don't know, Dan. I've sort of lost faith in this horse, a horse who I once really liked.
Sadler's Joy, multimillionaire. This is a horse that ran 3rd in the McDermott last time out behind Zulu Alpha. He's been in against Zulu Alpha in his last 2. We mentioned that's currently the divisional leader. Let's watch the McDermott. He's going to come and finish 3rd in this race. It was yet another solid triple-digit buyer performance for Sadler's Joy. Sadler's Joy, when Jose Lezcano rides him, gets a little bit closer to the pace. Javier, who's going to be aboard on Thursday, likes for him to make this one run. He's probably the best closer in the race. It's all about whether he gets a pace and a trip, because he's a very honest, consistent, classy horse.
Yeah, and it does feel like in this race anyway, things could set up pretty well for him. I think there's enough pace in here for Javier to ride him the way that he wants to ride him. Going back to that Red Smith that he won last November, Dan, I mean, he just dominated that field. And that was, sort of the one race, going back over the last 2 or 3 years where he really got some class relief. And he just showed that he's a lot better than horses at that level. I think that's probably still the case. He's the horse to beat in here. I might take a small shot against him.
Let's take a look at Perret's most recent race, because this is pretty notable. Stretching out from 5.5 furlongs to 1.5 miles, well, we figured he'd be on the lead in the point of entry. Who knew he was going to be around all the way to the end of this race? And it took a really nice horse in Red Knight to run this one down. So this horse has at least shown the ability to stay a distance, and he has some tactical speed. So he could be close to the pace. The pace situation could be in his advantage. I'm not sure he's as good as some of the big names in this race, but that last race was surely encouraging at a big price, and he'll be a number again, 20-1 on the line.
Yeah, he did take a step forward in that race, and we already talked about that point of entry. That was the race where Noble Indy didn't make the lead. He didn't make the lead because Perret went out there and took charge, and he actually went a legitimate pace in that race. I thought he ran well. It wasn't against, this kind of, there are much better horses in this race than there were in that point of entry. So we'll see how he stacks up. But he certainly took a step in the right direction the last time we saw him.
Go Poke the Bear was claimed by Michael Maker for $50,000. You always have to respect Maker claims. He won first time out for the new barn. They ran him in the Pan Am last time out. He ran okay. It was not a great performance. Jose Ortiz takes the mount 30-1 for Go Poke the Bear. This is a horse whose buyer speed figures are just a little bit light. I think he's going to improve. I'm just not sure it's enough to take down this tough field.
Yeah, I sort of agree with you. I mean, I'm not buying into him in this race. I always take a second look when you realize that it's Maker off the claim and when he's sort of focusing on these longer distance races, because he tends to really pick out the right ones and then run him back in these spots. So we'll see if Go Poke the Bear turns out to be one of them. He's going to have to prove it to me.
Mike, where did Current's last race come from? Because he'd really never run to that level before. It was in the Grade 2 Pan Am. We're going to take a look at this race right now. He was eager and pulling in the early portion of this race, but he turns into the lane, the number 4, poking ahead in front. That's Zulu Alpha, who has tried to move with him on the third turn. Current is fighting back very gamely for Todd Pletcher and Manny Franco, and he's only going to get beat a neck while finishing third. He was 37-1 this day. It was a marked improvement for him. Maybe it was simply the situation of getting him out to this distance on a firm turf course and showing a little bit more early speed. If he can get tucked in behind horses, maybe in the second flight, I think he should be in at least prime position turning into the stretch.
I agree. I think he's interesting in this race, Dan. And I say that, being somebody who really liked this horse early in his career. As a 2-year-old, I thought he was going to turn out to be pretty good. Maybe at the end of the day, it was ill-advised for them to try, those dirt-graded stakes races sort of in the middle of all these turf races. Like it almost looks like it threw him off his game a little bit. But I thought he ran really, really well last time. He really made Zulu Alpha work for it in that race. And he actually ran well when he was beaten by Standard Deviation in the Jersey Derby last summer, too. He did not get a great trip in that race.
I think Hayabusa 1 is a little bit of a sleeper, maybe to get into the number at a giant price, Mike. This horse was good enough to be multiple graded stakes placed back in 2018. He missed a ton of time. They brought him back last time out at Gulfstream off almost a 2-year layoff, and he was wired by Noble Indy in a race where there was no pace and he was trying to come from last. I think he's a lot better than that running line shows, and again, he has a bit of tactical speed. I think he gained a lot of fitness from the last one.
Yeah, I think he probably did too. And he certainly does have the back class to be a factor in here. I don't know if he can still run to that level, Dan. There are a lot of long layoffs on his card, a 7-year-old now with only 12 starts. But boy, when he was good, he was pretty good.
Channel Maker, a Grade 1 stakes winner. He won the Man of War in 2019, a Grade 1 stakes winner in 2018, winning the Joe Hirsch Turf Classic over Soft Going. Still, it's hard to wonder if this horse has that killer instinct. He hasn't won in his last several races. In the Muniz last time out, maybe that wasn't the greatest trip for him going 1 1/8. He's probably better at this distance. I just like it when they let him hear his feet rattle. Send this horse. Get him involved in the race early. He seems to do better with that kind of ride.
Yeah, that did seem to really turn his career around back in 2018. Rosario started sending them going longer, and it really worked out for them. Listen, there was a time when he was right up there with Sadler's Joy near the top of this division. He's sort of lost his form a little bit. His most recent 3 or 4 races aren't his best ones, but he's good enough to beat this field if he gets the right trip and he shows up.
Top pick time in the Tiller, the Thursday race of the day. Mike, you're going with Graham Motion, Standard Deviation, returning from overseas. Graham has a remarkable record with these kind of horses, and Standard Deviation, he should be running late. He showed a lot of promise for Chad.
Yeah, I was encouraged by his last race there going 1.5 miles. It sort of showed me that you don't really have to worry about distance with him, I don't think. And if he gets the right trip in here, I think he's going to be dangerous.
He's my second selection in here. I think Current can get the jump on him. I was really heartened by Current's most recent performance. I think 1.5 miles, 1 3/8 on firm going is what Current wants. I'm hoping he can hold on at a decent number. 11-1-8-9 for me. 1-8-11-13 for Mike. The Thursday race of the day. It's opening week at Belmont Park. It's the Tiller Stakes. And as an approximate post of 5:36 Eastern, good luck.